Welcome to our channel. Get ready for a collection of incredible stories that will send shivers down your spine. If you love mystery and horror, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us bring you more thrilling content. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into the stories. On the 1950s television, a very enticing commercial is playing. Welcome to the cruise liner Roswell. Here, you can find peace and experience a true paradise on water. We offer a wide variety of entertainment, rooms, and relaxation areas, and here, you'll feel right at home. We can delight you with everything possible: a huge pool, a cinema with films of your choice, a restaurant, and much more. We hope that your vacation on our liner will be truly unforgettable. Come aboard the Roswell and enjoy the best vacation experience. The story unfolds in 1954. We are introduced to one of the main characters of the story, Ruby Williams, a red-haired, brown-eyed girl. She is an ordinary girl who loves playing the piano, lives in a middle-class family, and is in a relationship with her beloved. At the moment, she is calmly brushing her hair in front of the mirror, getting ready for a walk with her friend, May. They plan to go shopping and simply enjoy the summer day, but suddenly, Ruby receives a ticket to the liner, and the sender is unknown. A stranger ran past her and simply handed the girl the ticket before disappearing as if he had never been there. She returns home and wonders why she is so lucky, a ticket, and not a cheap one, to a huge ship. Without much thought, the girl decides that this is her chance and starts packing her things, after which she heads to the destination at night, the Roswell liner. She arrives there, and after her ticket is checked, she boards the ship and finds herself on a rather luxurious vessel with a large, bright hall, a pool on the upper deck, a restaurant, and cabins for guests. But everything looks peculiarly extravagant and overly opulent. While exploring, she meets another passenger, Patrick. He is there as a photographer but is also keen on getting to know the passengers. Something seems to spark between them, but more on that later. They decide to walk around the liner to explore the place where they will be traveling for the next 6 months. The atmosphere seems more than calm, and the guests are quite friendly. However, they reach one of the rooms, specifically room 272, which is cordoned off with police tape and has a bloody mark on its door. Ruby and Patrick think it might be some kind of gimmick for the passengers, but how wrong they are. Next, we are introduced to another set of characters, the Roberts family, wife Ellen, husband Kane, and their little daughter Sunny. They came here from London because life there is unbearable, and they need a break. Sunny meets Ruby, and everything seems fine until suddenly, one of the passengers dies right during dinner in the restaurant. This frightens many of the guests, and the chief administrator tells his assistant to take the body to room 272. After that, the main events begin. When the assistant decides to check on the man, he enters the room, but the body is gone, and he immediately hears a whisper, "Now you're here forever." The walls turn crimson, as does everything in the room, and in fear, he tries to run away, but upon exiting the room, he finds himself back inside it. Then, a crimson ghost of a woman appears and brutally kills the administrator with a piece of glass, and the door slams shut. The noise wakes Ruby, and she decides to find out what is happening. Fortunately, Patrick stops her, and they calmly go back to sleep. However, the camera pans to the ill-fated room, and a bloody stripe appears on its door. The narrative continues the next day. In the main hall, everyone is discussing something that happened during the night. Ellen decides to find out what occurred. It turns out that one of the administrator's assistants was found dead, and the man who died in the restaurant was found without eyes, his body split in two. Shocked, she asks her husband to have them disembark at the nearest port, but he coldly replies that the nearest stop is quite far, approximately 18,000 kilometers away. The girl decides to take her daughter to play, while she goes for a walk, but her stroll turns into a game of chase with the ghost of her brother, leading her to run to the top of the liner and fall into the water, dying instantly. The situation is further complicated by the sudden arrival of a storm, even though calm weather had been predicted for the next month. Patrick continues his photo reportage, and while photographing the weather, he captures a shadow in one of the photos, a tall, ominous figure. Intrigued, he decides to double-check the photo, but the shadow has vanished. He becomes curious about the fear surrounding the infamous room and decides to ask one of the passengers, who is close friends with the ship's captain. The passenger doesn't know much, but he mentions that a couple used to live in that room. They constantly argued, and one day, the wife couldn't take it anymore and killed her husband with an axe. She then murdered several passenger witnesses, before ultimately taking her own life with a shard of glass. Patrick wonders if the woman's ghost and the administrator's murder might be connected. Meanwhile, Ruby is unable to sleep properly due to the nightmares haunting her. She decides to get some fresh air on the deck, where she finds Patrick. They have a heartfelt conversation. He asks her why she's here, and she confesses that she ended up on the ship by chance, but it's for the best. She reveals that she ran away from her abusive lover, who beats her but acts like an angel around others. For her, this ship is a sanctuary, and she has no intention of returning. Patrick, in turn, shares his own story. He was a war photographer during World War II and witnessed horrors that he will never forget. Even after all these years, he feels like the ghosts of war still haunt him. Ruby sympathizes with him, and they quietly admire the beautiful view before returning to the ship. There, they see Sunny playing with a girl who, in reality, isn't there. Ruby asks where her mother is, and Sunny replies, "Some auntie took her." This unsettles Ruby, and soon after, music suddenly starts playing in the hall. An orchestra appears, playing a melody that is both beautiful and eerie. The passengers begin to waltz. Patrick tries to leave the gathering, but one of the undead soldiers catches him, and in a state of hypnosis, he starts dancing. Ruby, meanwhile, encounters her abusive lover, and they end up in a tense, dirty dance. She manages to break free and starts running through the cabins in search of safety, but most of them are locked. The only open room is room 272. Despite her fear, Ruby decides to take the risk and enter, as there's no other way out. As Ruby steps into the room, the door slams shut behind her. The room is suddenly flooded with blood, and the same ghost appears. Ruby cowers in the corner, but then something strange happens. The ghost seems to glitch, like a computer error, and the small ship cabin transforms into a vast white room with a television screen in the center. Ruby approaches the screen and touches it. A video starts playing, featuring the man from the commercial. "Congratulations! You've reached the end of this wonderful journey. We hope you enjoyed it, but to truly exit, you must die in various ways." The ghost then emerges from the screen and begins chasing Ruby. She runs through the ship, eventually finding herself on the roof. There, she grabs a glass from a nearby table, smashes it, and strikes the ghost, but in doing so, she slips and falls into the water. The screen goes dark, and the perspective shifts to first-person view. The girl removes her virtual reality headset and looks around. We find ourselves in the present day, in the room of a teenage girl. The room is filled with plants, posters, a wardrobe, a desk with a mirror, and, finally, a bed. The scene shifts back to third-person view. The girl, with a joyful expression, texts her friend about how amazing the game was. But then, she hears a knock at the door. She opens it, but no one is there. Closing the door, she turns around to find the same grotesque crimson ghost standing behind her. It reaches out and touches her. She turns to face it, frozen in fear, as the ghost raises a shard of glass and that was just one chilling tale, but we're not done yet. Get ready, because the next story might be even more terrifying. Somewhere in a country that is not marked on maps, hardly anyone knows about it, and it is generally considered a closed state with a funny name, Anasecta. In its capital city, which officially does not exist, lived a man named Nick. An honorable citizen, an excellent accountant, and a devoted family man. The best of the best, a flawless example of a good person. Nick always did everything by the book. He honored laws and values, believed in one God, went to work every day, took almost no vacations, and never called in sick. One could go on and on about how good he was, but this story is not about that. It all started with a dream Nick had. he dreamed of other countries, people of different colors and appearances, unfamiliar technology, somewhat similar to what was produced in his country, yet different and even superior, unusual music he had never heard before, and various languages, some of which sounded quite amusing. These fleeting visions flashed through his mind so vividly that he woke up with a headache. His caring wife gave him a tasty pill to ease the pain, but the thought of the dream wouldn't let him rest. Usually, like everyone else, Nick forgot his dreams, but today he remembered everything in detail. He shared his experience with his wife, Amanda. "You won't believe it, but I had a dream where I saw people just like us, but they spoke different languages. They had technology like ours, but slightly different, and even superior in some ways. The same sky, air, and land, yet everything felt different somehow." "How fascinating, dear." Amanda smiled, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. "I wonder if it's really like that out there. It's a shame we're cut off from everyone. I'm really curious to see another world." And then, a thought appeared in his head, why not? This idea became an obsession for Nick. After that dream, he couldn't stop thinking about what lay beyond the border. Of course, to everyone else, it was nonsense. It was impossible for any other country to surpass Anasecta in intelligence, strength, health, or any other aspect of life. Here, almost all diseases had been eradicated, even cancer. Obesity was conquered, people could remain young forever, and they lived well past 100 years. Anasecta had the best technology, the best legal and educational systems, the best medicine, food, and clothing. Human rights were respected, living conditions were perfect, and everything was within reach. It was a true paradise. Yet, from time to time, strange events occurred, defying human logic. Some wives devoured their husbands. Some people cocooned themselves in a strange material, emerging in new forms. Others could eat garbage without consequence. Some even walked freely on water. These extraordinary citizens were rare, but they were celebrated as heroes, until they mysteriously vanished, leaving only traces in Anasecta's history. Now, back to Nick. In his free time, he decided to study other nations. The problem was, there was hardly any information about them. Everything was carefully concealed, with the explanation that Anasecta was the only civilized country, while beyond its borders lay either savages or dead lands filled with incurable diseases. That was why Anasecta remained closed off. This frustrated Nick, but he refused to give up. If no one would tell him the truth, he would find it out himself, no matter what it took. He needed to talk to the old-timers. One such person came to mind, Uncle Austin, a bioengineer, historian, and, most notably, an alcoholic. Once, he had been a professor at the best university in the country. He had earned a master's degree in bioengineering and history and was recognized as one of Anasecta's greatest minds. But after his personal life fell apart, he turned to alcohol, and the brilliant scientist became just another drunk. He had been drinking and complaining about his broken heart for more than 50 years. His beloved had turned out to be a heartless woman who left him for a life of pleasure. The strangest thing was that, despite his lifestyle, he had somehow made it to the age of 93. Rumor had it that Uncle Austin had twice left the country to study the culture of the so-called savages, bringing back dozens of them for experiments and retrieving useful things from foreign lands. In short, he had ventured into the dead lands for the sake of science. Nick could only hope that he hadn't drunk away the last of his intellect or lost the ability to speak. On his well-earned day off, Nick went to see Austin. He told Amanda that he just needed to sign some paperwork. He had been too busy during the work week. His wife, of course, believed him. Why would such a wonderful husband lie? Austin was at home, in good health and sound mind. He was just about to pour himself another drink when Nick's unexpected arrival interrupted him. Well, well. Look who's here. I remember you as a young lad with sparse whiskers, and now look at you. The old scientist beamed as he hugged his guest tightly. Austin had been an old friend of Nick's father. They had worked together at the same university until Austin quit academia and Nick's father died on an expedition to the savages. Nick had almost forgotten that Uncle Austin had a peculiar trait, an elongated pelvis with 2 pairs of legs. He had narrowly avoided the fate of other special citizens of Anisecta, perhaps because he had sunk so low. "I have a feeling you didn't come here for small talk," Austin said, squinting at him. "You're right. I want to know what's beyond our country's borders. Is everything they tell us really true?" The scientist jumped in surprise. "Not every day does someone come up to you and ask, 'What's out there in the Deadlands?'" He sat down at the kitchen table and invited Nick to have a drink with him, but Nick declined and simply took a seat. After 2 shots, Austin asked, "What made you curious about this?" "I've been having these vivid dreams lately, about different people, each with their own language, culture, and technology. Some of their machines even surpassed ours." "Well, in a way, that's true. So there are no savages out there? And no terrible diseases?" "No savages, no. But there are diseases, serious, incurable ones. You see, everything out there is different. Not like us. We are different. Completely different. And we see each other in ways that are impossible to explain." "So?" Austin drank a couple more shots and remained silent for a while, gazing at something outside the window. "It's hard to explain all this," he finally answered after a minute of silence. "If you're really that curious, I can arrange a tour." "You're not joking, are you?" "I don't like to joke, kid. I'm always serious. But from now on, be careful. It's not right for the residents of Anisecta, especially such honored citizens like you, to think about things like this." "Are you implying that we might be overheard?" "In our country, anything is possible. Especially when people talk about such things. Can you come see me again at the end of next week?" "I'll try. Then keep me posted. Do you still have my number?" "Of course. Dad's notebook is always with me, as a memory." Ha ha ha. Just like him, he also kept certain things as mementos. They continued chatting peacefully about other topics. During their conversation, Nick forgot that he was supposed to meet Amanda at the amusement park. He was an hour late. "Oh, Uncle Austin, sorry, but I have to leave. My wife and kids must be waiting. Will you introduce us someday?" "Of course. You'll see my beautiful wife and wonderful sons. Looking forward to it." After saying goodbye, Nick rushed to the park. Amanda had already started to worry about her husband. Meanwhile, some kind of commotion was breaking out at the park. Nick noticed it as he searched for his wife among the crowd. Surprised exclamations and screams echoed around, strange noises spread throughout the amusement park. Nick immediately headed toward the source of the commotion, hoping to find Amanda and the children there. A bizarre substance, vaguely resembling a cocoon, had formed near the teacup ride. Someone had fallen out of it with a wet slap. A putrid stench and a disgusting squelching sound disturbed everyone present. Something, or someone, was trying to emerge from the pale purple slime, grunting and growling. Soon, a charred hand appeared, then a second, followed by the person himself. His entire body was covered in blisters, as if he had just climbed out of a frying pan filled with boiling oil. "Hell, me. Everything is wrong. I need again." People in hazmat suits arrived. Along with them, police officers pushed the bystanders away from the scene. The crowd made it difficult for Nick to find Amanda and the kids. But after the commotion settled, they finally reunited. "Honey, why were you gone so long?" Amanda was still shaken by what she had seen, her voice filled with frustration. "Sorry, something came up at work. They couldn't handle it without me," Nick said, the first excuse that came to mind, hugging his children. "God, even on your well-deserved day off, they won't leave you alone." "That's my job." "What happened here?" "Someone turned into jelly, and—" Amanda struggled to find the right words, but Nick stopped her. "Something terrifying happened. Let's not talk about it now." His wife nodded in agreement, and the family returned home. That's when Nick noticed the first oddity: strange men in coats were watching him. Their appearances were bizarre, as if a child had clumsily molded human figures out of clay. Some of them even had insect-like features, distinct ones. But Nick had no time to scrutinize them. He needed to get home quickly and rest. The next day, Nick's boss paid him a visit. He usually didn't come without reason, either it was something good or something bad. This time, however, there was something strange about him. The boss mysteriously said, "Rumor has it you're planning a vacation?" Nick waved it off with a chuckle. "No way, Mr. Warden. If I leave, all the work will stop." "All right, then. You can be trusted, unlike those henchmen on cooler duty all day." "Where, who, and why would spread a rumor like that?" Nick looked out of his office to see those henchmen at the water cooler. Usually, no one stood there all day, they drank water and that was it, but today there were 3 strange guys standing there. They all looked ridiculous. The tall one had different-sized eyes, no hollows, a perfect line from forehead to chin, only a pointy nose. The middle one had a weird jaw structure, with a slightly protruding lower jaw but an open mouth. The little one had nothing remarkable, but something occasionally peeked out from behind his back. Nick had an uneasy feeling, not that he despised people with defects, but there was something frightening about these people. It made his work no longer go well. He had to stay late, because the reports wouldn't wait. "It's just paranoia," Nick muttered. After he'd visited Austin, and after that incident at the amusement park, where he'd met strange people like the ones in the office today, Nick had become afraid of everything. Whether it was the words of the drunken scientist or the mysterious strangers that had such an effect on him. On top of that, he was a little scared of the upcoming next meeting with the scientist. Why had Austin decided to help him? And why would Nick be so interested in the subject of other lands after a series of strange dreams? While he was thinking and writing reports, he heard loud footsteps in the corridor. Someone was heading toward his office. Nick turned to the door, gripping the knob tightly. Some sixth sense told him that something bad was coming and he needed to be ready for defense. The footsteps stopped at the door, and the knob slowly lowered. A hand in black liquid was revealed, and a sour odor hit his nose. Dear friends, thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this dive into the realm of the unknown, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and tap the notification bell so you won't miss the next video. More mysteries, more magic, and unexpected discoveries await. Together, we'll unravel every last enigma.